start asking their questions. Okay. Now regarding the rubrics for this graded cluster reporting activity, it shall be I shall take into account the following criteria. Delivery is 25%, content of the report 25%, presentation and organization is 25%, ability to answer promptly and accurately is another 25%, so you'll have a total of 100%. So this particular graded activity is equivalent to one mastery test, separate from the rating that I will give for your cluster portfolio. So you can start now.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. So I think all of you know that what is SSS, right? But I know there are some still questions in your head nga wala pa gyud na answer regarding what are the benefits, then what are the requirements we need or the documents we need if we want to take a loan in the SSS. So now my group mates and I will be discussing the different benefits, the privileges, the documents, and the different qualification in order for you to become a member of a social security system.
The SSS policy is to promote
Now, for the legislative history of the
The SSS policy is to promote social justice through savings and ensure meaningful social security protection to members and their beneficiaries against the hazards of disability, sickness, maternity, old age, death, and other contingencies resulting in loss of income or financial burden. In other words, SSS aims to provide a safety net for Filipinos who face financial difficulties through unforeseen circumstances. To achieve this, the SSS is committed to developing, promoting, and perfecting a social security program that emphasizes the value of work, save, invest, and prosper. This means that Filipinos are encouraged to work hard, save their earnings, invest wisely, and prosper in life. The Social Security Program is designed to support this goal by providing protection against financial risks that may rise along the way. Moreover, the SSS aims to extend Social Security protection to Filipino workers, both local and overseas, and their beneficiaries. This includes those who work in the formal sector, such as employees of private companies and government agencies, as well as those who work in the informal sector, such as self-employed individuals and small business owners. The vision of SSS is to establish a viable social security institution that provides universal and equitable social protection through the world-class service. This means that SSS aims to provide high-quality services that are accessible to all Filipinos, regardless of their socioeconomic status or location. As the SSS also aims to ensure that the social security system is sustainable and financially stable. In summary, the mandate of the SSS is to establish a social security system that promotes social justice, encourages Filipino to work hard and save their earnings, and provide
Now, for the legislative history of the Social Security System. To provide a Social Security program for Filipino workers in the private sector, President Manuel Rojas requested the immediate establishment of the Social Security System in 1948. It was also proposed to Congress by President Elpidio Quirino, created a system that aims to benefit and protect wage earners in 1949. On June 18, 1954, the Social Security Law, Republic Act No. 1161, came into effect, but was properly imposed only on September 1, 1957. It was also in 1957 that they only had 500,000 venture money, serving 1,094 employers, and 224,156 employees contributed a total of 6.6 million. In just 3 months after its first year of operation, the system was able to substantially amass assets worth 6.4 million and disburse benefits of 75,000 pesos. There was a stipulation in the Social Security Act of 1954 that membership for private employers with at least 100 employees was made compulsory. It was then updated from 100 to 50 to 5, but the amendment of SS law in June 1960 made it effective for all employers. January 1, 1975, the new Employees Compensation Program Executive Order Number 441 offered benefits and medical services to members suffering work-related casualties. January 2007, President Arroyo approved a 1% increase from 9.4% to 10.4% of SSS contribution, improving financial viability. Now, a little background of how Social Security programs slowly improve or enhance their management for the sake of both the entity and its members. It started providing pensions only for retirement and permanent total disability and lump sum benefits for death, permanent partial disability, and sickness. Introduced housing, salary, and educational loan programs in 1964. January 1, 1978 provided benefits for female members that gave birth, including those who suffer from a miscarriage. In 1979, retirement, survivorship, disability, sickness, maternity, hospitalization, and employment injury benefits were already administered by SSS. January 1, 1980, through Presidential Decree Number 1636, SS Law extended compulsory coverage to certain groups of self-employed people, and for foreign-based employers can voluntarily register their employees. 1990s, SSS experienced the highest peak of its growth for 33 years of operation. The value of benefits increased new loan programs, enhanced existing benefits, extended protection, and covered new groups of workers such as farmers, OFWs, etc. with 1,000 earnings a month. May 24, 1997, Social Security Act of 1997, Republic Act 8282 enhanced benefits, expanded coverage, and broadened investment alternatives. Exempted from attrition and standardization laws, SSS was able to expand its networks. January 1, 2002, the maximum monthly salary credit increased from 12,000 to 15,000, which improved the benefits for the workers. January 2003, the percent point increased from 8.4% to 9.4% in the SSS contribution and was approved by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Currently, it is now in 10.4%. Let's now talk about Republic Act Number 7699, an act instituting limited portability scheme in the Social Security insurance system by totalizing the workers' creditable services or contributions in each of the systems. Section 1. To appreciate the efforts of the employees and workers that contributed to the development of our national economy, the Social Security system offers benefits to improve their conditions. For the purposes of determining eligibility and computing benefits, a worker's cumulative creditable services or periods of contributions under either of the sectors must be added up and taken into account. Section 2. In this act, I'll be introducing terms as well as how they are used. Let's start with contributions. These refers to the paid contributions of the members of either systems of SSS and GSIS. Portability, transfer of funds for the account and benefit of a worker who transfers from one system to the other. Sector refers to public and private sectors that offer employment. System refers to entities SSS under Republic Act Number 1161 and GSIS under Presidential Decree Number 1146. Totalization refers to the process of adding up the periods of creditable services or contributions under each of the systems for the purposes of eligibility and computation of benefits. Section 3. Totalization shall apply in the following instances. 1. If a worker is not qualified for any benefits from both systems. 2. If a worker in the public sector is not qualified for any benefits in the GSIS. 3. If a worker in the private sector is not qualified for any benefit from the SSS. Totalization must always be used when calculating benefits to ensure that the worker or member's contributions to both systems yield to the maximum benefits that would otherwise not be possible. The contribution shall never be lost or forfeited. Section 4. Contributions made by the member as well as from the employer to both systems should all be included in processing the claimable benefits. They then receive the benefits which correspond to their contributions to one of the systems or both. Section 5 states that this act doesn't limit or reduce the benefits members of the system should enjoy arising from the law, issuances, and company practices, agreements, or policies. Section 6 states that the rules and regulations of this act are to be promulgated within 90 days of the implementation, given that conflict in the interpretation of the law and the rules and regulations should favor the members or workers. Section 7. All laws, orders, decrees, rules, and regulations that conflict with the provision of this act are repealed or modified. Section 8. This act shall be effective 15 days from its official Gazette publication or in at least 2 national newspapers of general circulation, whichever comes earlier.
Now, let's proceed to coverage of Social Security System. Persons required by law to be covered by SSS or the compulsory members. So first, all employees not over 60 years of age and their employers. A private employee, whether permanent, temporary, or provisional, who is not over 60 years old is required to be a member of SSS. The employer is required to deduct the employee's contribution from his or her salary and remit it to the SSS along with the employer's share. Second, we have household helpers whose income is not less than 1,000 per month and not over 60 years of age and their employers. A household helper is any person who renders domestic services exclusively to a household, such as driver, gardener, cook, governess, and other similar occupations. A household helper earning at least 1,000 a month is also compulsory covered by SSS. Their employer is also required to register them as a member and to contribute to the SSS fund on their behalf. Third, we have the overseas Filipino workers. Before the implementation of Republic Act 11199, OFWs were covered by the SSS on a voluntary basis. This means that OFWs had the option to register as SSS members and contribute to the SSS fund, but it was not mandatory. With the passage of the new law, however, SSS coverage for OFWs is now mandatory. All OFWs, provided they're not over 60 years of age, are required to register as SSS members and contribute to the SSS fund regardless of their employment status or the nature of their work abroad. Next, we have the self-employed individuals. A self-employed person, regardless of trade, business, or occupation, with an income of at least 1,000 a month and not over 60 years old, should register with the SSS. Including but not limited to are the following self-employed persons. Number 1. Self-employed professionals. So all self-employed professionals licensed by the Professional Regulations Commission or those licensed to practice law. This includes doctors, dentists, engineers, architects, and lawyers, among others. If an individual is a licensed professional and work for themselves, they are compulsory members of the SSS. Number 2, we have the partners and single proprietors of businesses. This includes individuals who run their own businesses or those who are in partnership. Number 3, actors and actresses, directors, scriptwriters, and news correspondents who do not fall within the definition of the term employee. If an individual working in the entertainment industry or as a freelance journalist, they are required to be a member of SSS if they are not considered an employee under Section 8 of the Social Security Act. Number 4, we have the professional athletes, coaches, trainers licensed by the Games and Amusement Boards, as well as jockeys and trainers licensed by the Philippine Racing Commission. This includes individuals who are involved in sports and horse racing. Number 5, we have individual farmers and fishermen. Farmers and fishermen are also required to become members of the SSS. This includes individuals who earn their living through farming and fishing. By becoming members of the SSS, they can enjoy benefits such as sickness, maternity, disability, and retirement. In this slide, we have the voluntary members. First, we have the self-employed individuals who realizes no income for a certain month. As what I've mentioned in the previous slide, a self-employed person is required to join SSS. However, in the event that a self-employed individual does not realize earnings in a given month, payment of SSS contributions for that month is no longer required and will turn into voluntary. Second, separated employees. Separated employee is a member who is separated from employment or ceased to be self-employed or OFW or non-working spouse and would like to continue contributing. So when employees under compulsory coverage are separated from employment, their employers' contributions on their accounts and their obligations to pay the contributions of their employees shall cease at the end of the month of separation. The separated employees shall be credited with all contributions paid on their behalf and are entitled to the Social Security benefits in accordance with issue guidelines and the provisions of the Social Security Act of 2018. The separated employees may continue to pay their contributions voluntarily to maintain their right to full benefit. Lastly, non-working spouse or stay-at-home spouses who devote full time to managing the household and family affairs are also covered by the SSS on a Now let's proceed to date of coverage. For employees, their coverage starts on the first day of their employment. Next, for employers, their coverage starts on the first day of their operation. While for self-employed individuals, their coverage starts upon registration with the SSS. For overseas Filipino workers, their coverage starts on the month and year of their first contribution payment. So their coverage begins once they start paying their SSS contributions. Lastly, for non-working spouse who are voluntarily paying contributions, their coverage starts on the month and year of their first contribution payment.
We now move on to qualifications and requirements for SSS registration, where we talk about what documentary requirements are needed to be submitted to SSS when you're registering as an employer, as an employee, as a self employed member, or a voluntary member. So, for sole proprietorships, the documents they would need to submit would be an SSS Form R1, which is an Employer SSS Registration Form, as well as an R1A, which is an SSS Employment Report. For partnerships, they would also have to submit an Employer SSS Registration Form as well as an Employment Report, along with a photocopy of the Articles of Partnership. For corporations, again, it's the same. They would submit an Employer SSS Registration Form and an Employment Report. But this time, both registration forms have to be signed by the corporation's president or by any corporate officers. And they also have to submit a photocopy of the articles of. Now, in this slide, the primary documents as well as the secondary documents are being listed out. It's important to take note of these because these are going to be important when someone is registering as an employee or a self-employed member or a voluntary member. So the next one is SSS registration as employee. If the person is registering with SSS for the first time as a potential employee, they have to submit an SSS Form E1 or a personal record, along with a original copy and photocopy of any primary document or two of any secondary documents, one of which must have a recent picture and date of birth. Now, if they are surviving spouses, and guardians aged 60 and above who are applying for the annual Confirmation of Pensioners program, they can submit any secondary documents with a recent photo and age. And if the person is married, they also have to submit a marriage contract upon registration. If with reported legitimate children, they have to submit a birth certificate or baptismal certificate of the children. And the birth certificate must include the annotation legitimate. And if the registrant is with reported legally adopted children, they have to submit a decree of adoption. And lastly, if the registrant is with reported illegitimate children, they need to submit a birth certificate or baptismal certificate of the children. And in the absence of these required documents, they have to submit a school record, insurance policy, and statement. Now, the last one is SSS registration as a self employed member or a voluntary member. So, first, let's talk about voluntary members. Now, if a member is separated from employment or ceases to be self employed, they can continue paying contributions through the SSS form RS5 using their previously assigned SS number. And such payment of contributions will change their membership status from covered employee, OFW, non working spouse, or self employed to a voluntary paying member. Now, if the registrant is a non working spouse, they need to submit an SSS Form NW1 or non working spouse record with a signature from their working spouse, along with a copy of a marriage certificate. Now, if the registrant is an OFW, they need to submit an SSS Form OW1 or Overseas Worker Record, along with a photocopy of any primary documents. And in the absence of these documents, any two of the secondary documents are acceptable. Now, on to self employed members. When registering in SSS, they need to submit an SSS Form RS1 or a self employed data record, along with a photocopy of any primary documents. Or, in the absence of these documents, they will need to submit any.
So now let us move to the new contribution policy of SSS in which they have new contribution schedule. So in accordance with Republic Act 11,199, otherwise known as the Social Security Act of 2018, starting January 1, 2023, the new SSS contribution rate will be 14%, in which a 1% increase from the current rate, which is 13%. So the 14% is composed of 9.5% employer share and a 4.5% employee share, while the minimum monthly salary credit or MSC will be increased from 3,000 to 4,000 pesos and the maximum MSC from 25,000 pesos to 30,000 pesos. So the 1% increase is to be shouldered by the employer and employee's share remain at 4.5%. So the 1% increase will be shouldered by the employer. However, the minimum and maximum monthly salary credits of the members will also be adjusted and will be the basis of the members' workers' investment and savings program, or also known as the WISP contribution. So below is the latest SSS contribution table, in which it is effective this January. So take note, guys, that not only the employer and employees are affected with the new schedule, but also the land-based OFW members, self-employed member, voluntary member, and non-working spouse are affected with the new contribution schedule of the SSS. So for the land-based OFW members have already paid their contribution in advance for the applicable months of January 2023 onwards based on the old contribution schedule are advised as follows. First, those with advance payment at the minimum of 8,000 pesos
shall settle underpayment amounting to 80 pesos to retain the posting of contributions at the same minimum monthly salary credit. Otherwise, such advance payment shall be deemed as ineffective contributions. So the second one is those with advance payment at a monthly salary credit other than the minimum of 8,000 pesos may opt to pay the corresponding increase in contributions to retain posting at the same monthly salary credit. Otherwise, such advance payment shall be posted at the applicable lower monthly salary credit. So now let us move on to the self-employed member, the volunteer member, and the non-working spouse member. So members have already paid their contributions in advance for the applicable months of January 2023 onwards based on the old contribution schedule are advised as follows. First, those with advance payment at the minimum of 3,000 pesos shall settle underpayment amounting to 170 pesos to retain the posting of contributions to the new minimum monthly salary credit of 4,000 pesos. Otherwise, such advance payment shall be deemed as ineffective contributions. And the second one, in which those with advance payment and a monthly salary credit other than the minimum of 3,000 pesos may opt to pay the corresponding increase in contributions to retain posting at the same monthly salary credit. Otherwise, such advance payment shall be posted at the applicable lower monthly salary credit. So take note of this also, guys, in which WISP, which I mentioned earlier, is the latest retirement savings plan for the agency's members. This is also a tax-free savings and
Moving on, we have the legal obligations of employers with the SSS. Now, as an employer, it is essential to know your legal duties and responsibilities to the Social Security system. Well, what are the legal obligations of an employer with the SSS? First up, employers must register their employees with the SSS. They are required to register all of their employees with the SSS as soon as they are hired. This includes submitting the employee's personal information and SSS number to the SSS. Next, employers must pay SSS contributions. Employers are required to pay their employees' SSS contributions on time, including the employer's share of contributions and employees' compensations. They must remit these to the SSS. The monthly contributions are computed based on the employee's salary and contribution rate. Then, employers must report the changes in employee status. This includes the changes in their salary, employment status, and other pertinent details. Next, complying with SSS programs and rules. Employers should comply with SSS programs such as the sickness, maternity, disability, retirement, and death programs. Employers should also comply with the rules and regulations promulgated by the Social Security Commission and implemented by the SSS. Lastly, employers must keep and maintain accurate records of their employees. Employers must keep proper records of their employees' SSS contributions, including receipts, disbursements, and other pertinent documents. Such records shall be open for inspection by the SSS or its authorized representatives quarterly, or as often as the SSS may require. Failure to comply with the above mentioned obligations can result in penalties, fines, and other legal consequences. Next up, we have the acts punishable under the SS Act. Penal sanctions are provided under Section 28 or the Penal Clause of the SS Law, as amended on the violations or non-compliance of the legal obligations of the employer. Now, what are these prohibited acts punishable under the SS Act? Firstly, the failure to register employees. Employers who fail to register their employees with SSS shall be punished with a fine of not less than 5,000 pesos but not more than 20,000 pesos for each employee that was not registered, and imprisonment of 6 years and 1 day up to 12 years without benefit of probation. This is in accordance with Section 28, Paragraph E of the Social Security Act. Next, the falsification of records. Employers who falsify any record, report, or document required to be submitted to the SSS shall be punished with imprisonment of not less than 6 years and 1 day, but not more than 12 years. This is in accordance with Section 28, Paragraph D of the Social Security Act. Next, non-remittance of contributions. Employers who fail to remit the required SSS contributions of their employees within the specified period shall be penalized with a fine of 3% per month of the contributions that were not remitted. This is in accordance with Section 22, Paragraph A of the Social Security Act. Lastly, any unlawful use of the SSS number. Any person who unlawfully uses the SSS number of another person for the purpose of obtaining any benefit under the SSS shall be punished with imprisonment. Employers who violate any of these provisions and are found guilty of such violation shall be penalized in accordance with the Social Security Act. Now, to the last part of the legal obligations, the administrative sanctions against the employer under the Social Security Act. The Social Security system implements various sanctions against employers who violate the provisions of the Social Security Act. These sanctions are aimed at ensuring compliance with the law and protecting the rights of the employees. The following are the administrative sanctions that may be imposed on employers by the SSS. Firstly, fines. The SSS may impose fines on employers who violate the provisions of the Social Security Act. The amount of the fine may vary depending on the severity of the violation. The fine may be in addition to any other penalties that may be imposed. Next, imprisonment. In some cases, the violation of the Social Security Act may be a criminal offense. If an employer unlawfully withholds the SSS contribution of its employees or fails to remit the contributions to the SSS on time, the employer may be subject to criminal prosecutions. Employers who are found guilty of a criminal offense may face imprisonment. This is a serious sanction and is reserved for the most severe violations. Then, the suspension or revocation of registration. The SSS may suspend or revoke the registration of employers who violate the provisions of the Social Security Act. This means that the employer will no longer be able to participate in the SSS program. This may have serious consequences for the employer, including the loss of benefits for employees. Next, withholding of benefits. Employers who fail to remit the contributions of their employees may have their benefits withheld by the SSS. This means that the employer will not receive any benefits from the SSS until their contributions have been remitted. This is a way to encourage employers to comply with the law and ensure that employees receive the benefits they are entitled to. Lastly, non-monetary sanctions. The SSS may also impose non-monetary sanctions, such as ordering the employer to correct the violations or conduct periodic reports for monitoring and compliance. In conclusion, the SSS takes the enforcement of the Social Security Act seriously and imposes various administrative sanctions on employers who violate its provisions. Employers should be aware of their obligations under the law and ensure compliance to avoid sanctions that may be.
Let's start with the benefits of SSS. Now, before you can avail any of the benefits, there are qualifications. For sickness, the sick or injured member should be unable to work for 4 days, confined in a hospital, or even at home. They should have paid 3 months' worth of contribution within the 12-month period before the semester of sickness or injury. They should have used up all the company's sick leaves with the pay for the current year and notified the employer. They must also fill up the sickness benefit form to inform SSS. Sickness benefit. The amount of the member's daily sickness benefit allowance is equivalent to 90% of their average daily salary credit, and the sickness benefit is granted up to a maximum of 120 days in one calendar year. For maternity, they should have at least paid 3 months' worth of contribution in the 12-month period preceding the semester of childbirth, miscarriage, or pregnancy termination. The employer should be notified of the pregnancy as well as the possible date of birth. Also, they must notify the SSS of the occupation status. For maternity benefits, the amount of the daily cash allowance is equivalent to 100% of the member's ADSC for a compensable period of 105 days for normal or cesarean section delivery, 120 days for solo parents under RA 8972 or the Solo Parents Welfare Act. or 60 days for miscarriage or emergency termination of pregnancy, including stillbirth. The maternity benefits is granted regardless of member's civil status and frequency of pregnancy. They should have paid at least 1 month worth of contribution before the semester of disability. They must have paid at least 3 years or 36-month worth of contribution before the semester of disability to qualify for a monthly disability pension. If the contribution is less than 36 months, they are granted a lump sum.
So there are five things that we need to remember about the retirement benefit of the SSS. The first one is a member has paid at least 120 monthly contributions prior to retirement is entitled for as long as he lived to the monthly pension, provided he has the option to receive his first 18 monthly pensions in lump sum discounted at a preferential rate of interest determined by the SSS. The second one is a covered member who is 60 years old at retirement and does not qualify for pension benefits is entitled to a lump sum benefit equal to the total contributions paid by him and on his behalf, provided he is separated from employment and not continuing to pay contributions to the SSS on his own. So the third one is the monthly pension of a retired member who is less than 65 years old is suspended upon re-employment or self-employment subject to Section 18 and Section 19 of the Republic Act. The fourth one is the primary beneficiaries of a retired member are entitled to receive a monthly pension, but if they die within 60 months, their secondary beneficiaries are entitled to a lump sum benefit equivalent to the total monthly pensions corresponding to the balance of the 5-year guaranteed period, excluding the dependent's pension. So the last one is the monthly pension of a member who retires after reaching age 60 years old is the higher of either the monthly pension computed at the earliest time he could have retired, plus all the adjustments, or the monthly pension computed at the time he actually retires. So, for the death benefit, upon the death of a member who has paid at least 36 monthly contributions prior to the semester of death, his primary beneficiaries are entitled to the monthly pension. If he has no primary beneficiaries, his secondary beneficiaries are entitled to a lump sum benefit equivalent to 36 times the monthly pension. If he has not paid the required 36 monthly contributions, his primary or secondary beneficiaries are entitled to a lump sum benefit equivalent to the monthly pension times the number of monthly contributions paid to the SSS or 12 times the monthly pension, whichever is higher. For the funeral benefit, a funeral grant of 12,000 pesos will be paid to help defray funeral expenses for members, including permanently disabled or retirees upon their death. So the last one is the Employees Compensation Program. So the Employees Compensation or EC program provides benefits to workers who suffer work-connected sickness or injury, which can be enjoyed simultaneously with Social Security benefits. Compensation is available only for sickness, injury, disability, or death resulting from an employment accident if the employee is injured at the workplace, performing official functions, or executing an order for the employer. Employees and dependents will not be compensated for injuries, sickness, disability, or death due to drunkenness, willful intention to injure or kill, or negligence.
So now we're going to talk about the different types of member loans in SSS. There are exactly six different loans which the SSS has, and these are salary, business, calamity, housing loan for repairs and improvements, and housing loan for mortgage. And each loan has the same categories that should be known to those who wants to apply to whatever kind of loan they want. These categories are terms of payment, interest and penalty, documentary requirements, qualifications, and the loanable amount. So the first loan is salary loan. As for the qualifications, basically this loan is granted to an employed member or an currently paying self-employed or voluntary member. This is intended to meet the member's short-term credit needs, and all of these qualifications should be met by the borrower. And take note that the borrower must not have been granted any final benefit, for example, total permanent disability, retirement, and or death benefits, be under 65 years of age at the time of the loan application, and have not been disqualified due to fraud committed against the SSS. As for the requirements, there are actually two: the primary and secondary requirements. The primary requirements are SSS card, Unified Multi-Purpose ID, driver's license, passport, professional regulation card, and while the remaining 22 documents listed are the secondary requirements. Moving on to the loanable amount. So, a 1 month salary loan is equivalent to the average of the member borrower's 12 latest posted monthly salary credits, rounded to the next higher MSC or amount applies for, whichever is lower. Next is 2 month salary loan is equivalent to the member's borrower's 12 latest posted monthly salary credits, rounded to the next higher MSC or amount applies for whichever is lower. And lastly, the net amount of the loan shall be the approved loan amount less service fee and outstanding balance of previous short-term member loan, if any. So for the terms of payment, the loan shall be payable within 2 years, basically divided into 24 equal monthly amortizations. It shall start on the second month following the date of the approval of the loan, refer in the given table. So this table consists of payment deadlines. As for the penalty and interest, the loan shall be charged an interest rate of 10% per annum until fully paid, computed on a diminishing principal balance, and shall be amortized over a period of 24 months. Next is any excess in the amortization payment shall be applied to the outstanding principal balance. Third, loan amortization not remitted on due date shall bear a penalty of 1% per month. And lastly, if the loan is not fully paid at the end of the term, interest and penalty shall continue to be charged on the outstanding principal balance until fully paid.
Next up, the business loan. The following are the key points regarding business loans. The loan should be paid monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually based on the PFI's amortization schedule. The loan has a maximum term of 15 years with a 3-year grace period on principal payment. However, for loans to be used to finance projects in extractive industries and forest development related projects, including those with exceptional cases that require longer tenor, the term may be allowed for more than 15 years and a grace period of more than 3 years, provided that the term will not exceed 25 years. Next, interest and penalty. The interest rate of the loan may be variable or fixed based on the prevailing SSS pass-on rate to PFI plus PFI's spread. The prevailing interest rates shall be viewed monthly. No pre-termination fee or penalty shall be charged in case of prepayment of loan. Then, the documentary requirements. The borrower needs to submit a member loan application form along with the SSS digitized ID or an acknowledgement stub with any two valid IDs, one of which with recent photo. The valid IDs include unexpired driver's license, Professional Regulation Commission or PRC ID card, passport, postal ID, school or company ID, tax identification number card or TIN, and Siemens book. Then we have qualifications for loan availments. The eligible borrowers shall be new or existing private industries and enterprises with the following qualifications: single proprietorship, partnership, or corporation, at least 60% Filipino owned, including cooperatives and non governmental organizations. They must be engaged in any business activities allowed or registered under the Philippine laws. Such examples include agribusiness, food processing, manufacturing, commercial productions, etc. They must also have a proven track record of profitability for existing enterprises. Lastly, they must be an SSS member employer in good standing. Lastly, the loanable amount. The maximum loanable amount shall be the lowest of the following: provided that the borrower's debt equity ratio after financing shall not exceed the ratio of 3:1.
The calamity loan is a type of financial assistance offered to employed, self-employed, and voluntary members who have been affected by a calamity. To qualify for this loan, the member's employer must be updated in the payment of contributions and loan remittances. Additionally, the member must have at least 36 posted monthly contributions, 6 of which should be posted within the last 12 months prior to the month of filing the application. The applicant must also be a resident of the calamity declared areas and have suffered losses or damages to their properties. They must not have been granted any final benefit, such as total permanent disability, retirement, or death at the time of application. Furthermore, the applicant must not have any outstanding restructured loan under the SSS loan restructuring program. These are the key eligibility requirements that must be met for a successful application for the calamity loan. I would like to clarify a common misconception regarding the documents required for calamity loans. Many people believe that the primary and secondary documents for calamity loans are different from those for salary loans. However, I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. The primary and secondary documents required for calamity loans are the same as those for salary loans. So if you already have these documents ready, then you are one step closer to getting your loan approved. Here is the slide for the primary documents. The next slide will be consisting of the secondary documents. I'm here to explain how the amount of a calamity loan, loanable amount, is determined. Firstly, it's important to note that the amount of a 1 month salary loan is the same as the amount of a calamity loan. This means that the amount you can borrow will depend on your average monthly salary among other factors. Especially the amount of your calamity loan will be equivalent to the average of your last 12 months salary credits, rounded up to the nearest thousand pesos. Alternatively, it can also be the amount that you applied for, whichever amount is lower. So an example would be, if your average amount salary credit is 15,000, then the maximum amount of your calamity loan will be 15,000 pesos. However, if you apply for a lower amount, let's say 10,000 pesos, then the amount of your loan will be 10,000 pesos. It's important to remember that the amount of your calamity loan will depend on several factors, including your average monthly salary and the. Now, for the payment terms for SSS calamity loans. First, the loan shall be payable within 2 years or 24 equal monthly installments. The monthly amortization shall start on the second month following the date of the loan, which is due on or before the payment deadline. For employed members, the payment deadline depends on the 10th digit of the 13th digit ERID number. If the 10th digit is 1 or 2, the deadline is on the 10th day of the month. If it is 3 or 4, the deadline is on the 15th day. If it is 5 or 6, the deadline is on the 20th day. If it is 7 or 8, the deadline is on the 25th day. And if it is 9 or 0, the deadline is on the last day of the month. For self-employed and voluntary members, except OFW members, the payment deadline depends on the last digit of the SS number. If the last digit is 1 or 2, the deadline is on the 10th day of the month. If it is 3 or 4, the deadline is on the 15th day. If it is 5 or 6, the deadline is on the 20th day. If it is 7 or 8, the deadline is on the 25th day. And if it is 9 or 0, the deadline is on the last day of the month. For OFW members, the payment deadline is on or before the 10th day of the month following the applicable month. Lastly, payment can be made at any SSS branch office with tailoring facility, SSS accredited bank, or SSS authorized payment center. It is important to ensure that payments are made on or before the payment deadline to avoid penalties and other charges. Now, for the interest and penalties of the SSS calamity loans, the loan will be charged with an interest rate of 10% per annum computed on a diminishing principal balance. This means that the interest rate will be based on the outstanding balance, and as the loan is paid off, the interest charges will decrease. In case there is an excess in the amortization payment, it will be applied at the outstanding principal balance. So it is advisable to pay more than the required monthly installment to lessen the interest charges. However, loan amortization or payments that are not remitted on the due date shall bear the penalty of 1% per month until fully paid. This penalty will continue until the outstanding balance is fully paid. If the loan is not fully paid at the end of the term, an interest rate of 10% per annum and a penalty of 1% per month will continue to be charged on the outstanding principal balance until fully paid. So it's best to pay the loan on time to avoid any penalties.
Those eligible to apply for the housing loan must be a member of SSS who has at least 36 months of contributions and 24 continuous contributions in the period before application. The age of the borrower must also not be more than 60 years old at the time of application, and they must not have a repair or improvement loan previously granted by the SSS or the NHMFC. These are the documentary requirements for the SSS housing loan. So the maximum loanable amount of a housing loan is 2 million, and the lowest amount that it can be granted on are based on the following factors. The appraised value of collateral of at least 70% but not exceeding 90%. Number 2, the borrower's capacity to pay. And number 3, the actual need of the borrower based on the contract to sell, scope of work, and bill of materials evaluated by the SSS. There are also two housing loan types, the socialized housing loan and the low cost housing loan. The amount of loan you can get for a socialized housing loan can go up to 450,000, while for a low cost housing loan can go over 450,000 up to 1 million, or over 1 million up to 1,500,000, and over 1,500,000 up to 2 million. Finally, on to the interest and penalty of a housing loan. If up to 450,000, there is an 8% interest per annum. If over 450 up to 1 million, there is a 9% interest per annum. If over 1 million up to 1,500,000, there is a 10% interest per annum. And number 4, if there's over 1,500,000 up to 2 million, there is an 11% interest per annum. The loan shall be secured by any collateral acceptable both to the PFIs and the SSS, provided the loan is. Next is the housing loan for repairs and improvements. The one who are qualified to avail this loan are stated here, which are: first, the borrower must be a member of SSS who has at least 36 months contributions and 24 continuous contributions in the period prior to application. Second, age of member is not more than 60-year-old at the time of application. Third, member was not previously granted a repair and or improvement loan by the SSS or NHMFC. Next is member has not been granted final SSS benefits. And lastly, borrower and spouse is updated in the payment of their other SSS loans, if any. All of these things listed are the documentary requirements that the borrower needs to submit: application for direct house repair and improvement loan, and SSS ID cards of the principal applicant and his or her spouse, if applicable. In the absence of the SSS ID card, any two valid IDs with signature, at least one with photo. For employed borrower, latest income tax return, original and photocopy for authentication and certification of employment and compensation duly assigned by the employer's SSS authorized signatory, together with two latest monthly payslips. For self-employed or professional, income tax returns and financial statements for the last 3 years. For overseas workers, the contract of employment and certification of employment and compensation duly authenticated by the Philippine Consulate or SSS foreign representative. Certified true copy of the original or transfer or condominium certificate of title,
issued by the Registry of Deeds together with owner's duplicate copy. Latest tax declaration of real property, land and building with the official receipt of realty tax, lot or location plan prepared, signed and sealed by a licensed geodetic engineer. The plan should be prepared in a standard Bureau of Lands from blueprint or white print copy with the following. First, sketch of the lot with description of its boundaries. Second, lengths and bearings of the tile line and sides of the lot. And vicinity map with landmarks, street pattern, street names, and lot distance as reckoned or based from the lot to the nearest street intersection. Consolidation Subdivision Plan approved by the Land Registration Authority or Bureau of Land or DNR NCR. One copy of it. Complete set of building plan as approved by the building official with signature of the owner or applicant and signed and sealed by their respective licensed engineers. For loans over 100,000, specifications and bill of materials and labor must be signed and sealed by a licensed civil engineer or architect with owner's conformity. While for loans 100,000 and below, the signature and seal by a licensed civil engineer or architect are no longer required. Scope of works showing list or itemized works to be done according to priority, prepared and signed by owner, civil engineer or architect. Building or renovation permit issued or approved by the building official with locational clearance, electrical permit, sanitary or plumbing permit, and corresponding official receipt. Pictures of existing collateral, the existing house and lot, first front and one side, second rear and other side, third kitchen counter, and fourth toilet and bath pictures. As for existing housing loan with the SSS under joint application, written conformity or consent of the joint applicant or co-owner mortgagor pertaining to disrepair and or improvement housing loan availment. For condominium units, these are the things that they need to submit. Floor plan of the specific condominium unit scaled with the size dimensions 20 times 30 size, blueprint or white print copy, signed and sealed by licensed architect or civil engineers. Second is architectural plans showing the plan of the specific floor where the unit is located. Floor plans should be scaled with size dimensions. And lastly, first page of the condominium building plans showing the site development plan, vicinity map, etc. as approved by the building official. Lastly, affidavit of undertaking to continue paying monthly SSS premium contributions for the durations of loan for voluntary and self-employed members only. Moving on to the loanable amount, the maximum loanable amount is 1 million. Appraised value of collateral of at least 70% but not exceed to 90%. The borrower's capacity to pay and actual need of the borrower based on the contract to sell or scope of work and bill of materials evaluated by the SSS. For the terms of payment, the loan is payable in multiples of 5 years up to a maximum term of 20 years, except for OFW, which have a maximum years. However, the loan term shall be subject to the following. The principal borrower's age shall not exceed 65 years old at the time of loan maturity, and the loan term shall not exceed the economic life of the house after repairs and or improvements are introduced as determined by the SSS. As for the interest, there is a 9% per annum. However, take note if there is a repricing, because loans with a payment term of not more than 15 years shall bear a fixed interest rate, while loans with a payment term beyond 15 years shall bear a fixed interest rate only during the first 15 years of the loan term, but thereafter shall be subject to repricing every 5 years starting on the anniversary month of the 15th year. And now we're bound to the last member loan, which is the housing loan assumption of mortgage. This is a lending program of the Social Security System that allows a member in good standing to assume the updated principal balance of an existing SSS housing loan. The qualifications for these loans: For the requirements, the borrower is required to submit the latest income tax return together with Form W-2 and confirmation receipt of payment. Owner's copy of the original or transfer certificate of title or condominium certificate of title, and latest property tax declaration and latest realty tax receipt. As for the loanable amount, it's still the same as to the previous loan. However, the maximum in this loan is 2 million, but should not exceed the updated loan balance of the account assumed. Next is the terms of payment. The regular monthly amortization payment shall start within the first 10 days of the succeeding month after the account has been journalized. Prior to journalization, the applicant shall continue paying the monthly amortization for the account of the original mortgage. The amortization period shall be in multiples of 5, but shall in no case exceed the remaining term of the old mortgage, the economic life of the house, and the difference between the age of the applicant, 65. And lastly, for the interest and penalty, these are the corresponding interest rates depending on how much your loan is. So, what benefits can we get as students after knowing this information, even if we're not SSS members? The benefits that we can get are the following. Firstly, it can give you a better understanding of the lending process in general, including the interest rates, payment terms, and other relevant factors that may impact your own borrowing decisions in the future. This can help you make informed financial decisions when it comes to taking out loans or applying for credit. Secondly, if you're planning on entering the workforce soon, you may become eligible to become an SSS member in the future. Understanding the benefits and requirements of SSS membership, including the different types of loans available, can help you prepare for this possibility and take advantage of any opportunities that may arise. Finally, having knowledge about SSS member loans can also be beneficial in terms of general financial literacy. Understanding how loans work and the potential risks and benefits involved can help you make smarter financial decisions, build better credit, and avoid common pitfalls that can lead to debt and financial distress. Overall, even if you are not currently an SSS member, knowing the different information about SSS member loans can provide valuable insights and skills that can benefit you both now and in the future.
As someone who will be part of the business sector, it is important for you to know how your SSS contribution is computed and recorded in the books of your employer. To start, I will be giving an example based on the 2023 SSS contribution policy. So, situation. Olivia Cruz is the receptionist of Beauty Bliss Salon and receives a monthly income of 15,000 before any deductions or taxes. Questions. Number 1. How much is her and her employer's SSS contribution respectively? Number 2. How to record her employer's share in contribution. First, it is important to know that an individual's SSS contribution is based on their gross income. We all know what is gross income, right? Gross income is the sum of all wages, salaries, profits, interest, payments, rents, and other forms of earnings before any deductions or taxes. So in short, the gross income will be used to compute the SSS contribution for Olivia Cruz. Based on the SSS 2023 contribution table for regular employers and employees, the percentage and contribution rate for both employee and employer is, is 4.5% and 9.5% respectively. So for Olivia, we will have 15,000, which is her monthly income, multiplied by 4.5%, which is her employee share. We will get 675. So for her employer, still we have 15,000, Olivia's monthly income, multiplied by 9.5%, which is the employer share. We will get 1,000. However, the total contribution will also include the required employee compensation, which will be charged to the employer. For employees whose monthly salary is below 14,500, the employee compensation is 10 pesos. And for employees whose monthly salary credit is 15,000 and above, the employee compensation is 30 pesos. So to compute for the employee and employer's total contribution, we will have 675 plus 1,425 plus 30, which is the employee compensation, we will have the sum of 2,130. Olivia's SSS contribution is 675, while Olivia's employer SSS contribution is 1,455, which is the sum of 1,425 plus 30, the employee compensation. I've mentioned a while ago. Moving on to the journal entries, we will debit SSS premium expense amounting to 1,455, credit SSS contribution payable amounting to 1,455, explanation to record employer's share of SSS contribution. To record the remittance to SSS, we debit SSS contribution payable with the amount of 2,130 and credit cash with the same amount 2,130. Explanation to record remittance to SSS. Another info you should know is how to journalize the loan payment of SSS members. So let's assume that Jenny Kim loaned a sum of 5,000 last month from SSS. The due date is 1 year from now, but Jenny decided to pay her loan immediately the next month, so her salary will be deducted by 5,000 along with the interest and service fee based on SSS salary loan standards. So here we have the principal amount of loan, which is 5,000 pesos. So to compute for the interest rate, we'll have 5,000, the principal amount, times 10%, the SSS salary loan interest rate as of 2023, times 112, since Jenny will pay her loan immediately the next month, we will get a total of 41.67. Round it off, we'll have 42 pesos. For the service fee, still principal amount of 5,000, multiplied by 1% the service fee charge, we will get 50 pesos. So we'll add everything from the principal amount, which is 5,000 pesos, plus interest rate of 42 pesos, plus service fee of 50 pesos, we will get 5,092 pesos, the total SSS loan. For the journal entry to record remittance to SSS, we have debit SSS loan payable dash employee amounting to 5,092, credit cash still amounting to 5,092, explanation to record remittance to SSS. Now the journal entries for deduction from employees' payroll, we will have debit payroll amounting to 25,000, credit SSS loan payable dash employee amounting to 5,092, another credit which is cash amounting to 19,908, explanation deduction from employees' payroll of personal loan.
That's it for our group, miss.
Can I go back to your entries, please?
Moving on to the journal entries, we will debit SSS. As someone who will be part of the business sector, it is important for you to know how your SSS contribution is computed and recorded in the books of your employer. To start, I will be giving an example based on the 2023 SSS contribution policy. So
For a
situation,
while, ha?
Olivia Cruz is the receptionist of
I-pause
Beauty
lang
Place
una.
Salon and receives a monthly
Okay, go to the next slide. For the journal entries.
for
Sige, pag yun. Okay, the 675 is the employees' share of the SSS premiums, while the 1455, again, The 675 is the employees' share of the SSS premiums, while the 1455 is the company's share, or employer's share of the contributions, which includes the ECC of 30, right?
Yes, miss.
Okay, you should have a separate recording for the SSS contributions for the premiums and also for the ECC. Why? Because the ECC is intended, the ECC is considered, is intended for the disability fund, di ba? While ang SSS premiums, it's the benefit that should be given to the employees being an SSS member. Being an SSS member. So, in making the entry, you should have a separate recording for the ECC and also for the SSS premiums. But I have noticed that the total contribution, okay, the total employer's contribution is lumped under one account for the SSS contribution. Di ba? Tanawa ang inyong next slide, ang journal entry.
Moving on to the journal and
So, your entry there to record the company's share of the SSS contribution is 1455, which includes the ECC of 30. So it should have been debit SSS premiums expense for 1,425. You debit ECC premiums expense or just ECC expense for 30 pesos. Then you credit SSS SSS premiums payable at 1,425 and credit ECC payable at 30. So dapat it should be a separate recording for ECC and the employer's share of the SSS premiums. It should be separated. And then for the next entry, remittance na sa SSS contributions. Next entry. Next slide.
to record the remittance
Okay, it should be debit SSS contributions payable. Then you debit ECC payable for 30 pesos. Kaya maningan, 2, 1. To record remittance to SSS. So both ECC ug ang premiums contributed by both employee and employer should be remitted to SSS, not just the employer's share, di ba? Nganong 2,130 man siya. So dapat the entry here for the remittance should include remittance sa SSS premiums for both employees' share and company's share of the premiums, plus the ECC contributed by the employer. Gets nyo?
Miss.
Yes, Angel?
Ah, yes, miss.
So, unsay dapat i-entry ninyo for the remittance to SSS. Tangtanga lagi ng to record. Diretso na mo ana remittance to SSS. So pila man to ang sa employee. Ibalik ragot sa previous nga slide. Pilay sa employee, pilay sa employer.
Moving on to the
Previous katong dunay computation.
however, the
Sige. So it would be sa employee is 675. Okay, na-appeal na di ay. Kay ang employer is SSS premiums 1425 plus ECC nga 30, so that's 1455. So ang inyo ani for the remittance is you debit SSS contributions payable 675, you debit dili. You debit SSS contributions payable 675 plus 1425. Pila man? 2001? Angel?
Yes, Miss, 2,100 pesos.
2,100. Sige. Ma-edit ni inyong slides. Can you have it edited?
No, Miss, kay picture siya pero we can leave a comment ra sa for the ano Miss, the presentation.
Unsay picture ra?
I like the edit siya Miss ba?
Ngano lagi sa previous class na edit man ilang work lagi outright on the screen. So you will be sharing this report to
however,
everybody, di ba?
Yes, Miss.
You will
Ano
also give me a copy of this report. Nga mo tag mo copy sa report nga naay sayo. So dapat it should be edited. Saan man na?
ano Miss, we recorded it in a Word pero we can change it again Miss. Since screenshot mo gani among gipot Miss, dili siya like kanang ang Excel file ba. Pero we can change it then paste it again here for the sub video.
Make sure ha that the shared copy is corrected na.
Yes, Miss. We are also taking note about the changes, Miss.
how
Okay. Sige. So let's have the open forum now. Turn on the camera for those who will be asking questions. Identify yourself, then tell us also what cluster you belong. Then for the reporting cluster, please turn on your camera. The questions will be addressed to any one of the reporters. Okay, start na.
Yes, Joshua. Go ahead.
Hello, madunggan ako.
Yes, madungan na
Ah,
po.
yeah, my question was about the katong form kanina katong it was mentioned na the SSS kay there's if first time nimo magpa-member sa SSS kay you have to have a form katong E1 nga form. I just wanted to ask more about that niya. What specific requirements are needed? And I'm from cluster 1 by the way.
So what is your question?
Hi Katumis, again my question is about the specific requirements and like what the E1 form, the SSS E1 form is about.
In other words, what information will be disclosed in the E1 form?
Yes, miss. Like what kind of information is being asked for sa E1 form, miss?
So I'll answer now the question. I think my members are having internet connection. So SSS Form E1 is the personal record form used to register with the Social Security System or the SSS in the Philippines. So it is a pre-printed form that contains the member's personal information such as name, address, birth date, and contact details, as well as information about the member's employer such as name, address, and industry.
That's all? Uy, ang dependence di ay, ang status di ay, kulang man ang information. Why don't you show a sample copy of the E1 form? Okay, that is the very first document that you will
Yes,
secure
Miss Vic.
before you'll be hired by the company, by your employer.
I'll be showing an example of the E1 form. Wait, it's still loading. This one. But this one, this is the example. Saan ko sa GIF?
Pwede siya mapadako. Why are there only three
This one, correct.
members voting cluster ang makita sa screen?
It's an example of the E1 form.
Okay. Yes, as personal, it's a personal record. O na, o. Ang dependents or beneficiaries, importante man gud na. So is it limited only to the first 5 beneficiaries?
Oh, miss. As you can see below, there is also a certain slide like for other beneficiaries if without spouse and child and parents are both deceased. Here, here.
Mm, okay. So that applies to the employees who are single. Single, but both parents are already, but the
Deceased.
parents are already deceased,
Yes.
and then no child at all. No? So
Yes,
who
miss.
else can qualify as beneficiaries in that case? Walay spouse, so single siya ang employee. Walay
Yes, miss.
child, and then parents are both deceased. So who will qualify as his or her beneficiaries?
Ano, miss, are the relatives of the of the member in which their parents are both deceased.
Relatives? Who in
That's the
particular?
main. That's the main. The
What about the siblings?
yeah, the siblings or the relatives miss the siblings of this the siblings
Broad
of the
ang good na
members.
ang relatives. Ayun kag relatives, pwede auntie, pwede uncle, pwede lolo, lola, igagaw. Kinsa man jud nga beneficiaries.
The first relatives is like the closest relatives of those member of those of yeah of those members.
Are you sure?
Yes, the siblings.
Can you find that in the website? Did you ask this question during the interview? Or can you find that information in the website, in their website? Or anyone in the cluster can answer her, not just the leader?
If the member if the member minutes of the SSS like parents are both deceased can take the benefits, like example the spouse of the member, the spouse, the child, or the parents, and if it's about wait, it can be the spouse, the children, and the parents. Then if it's legitimate or legally adopted, the children should be below 21 years old, and it should not be he or she should not be employed or not yet married.
Okay. In the case of the married employees or SSS members, the spouse, the children, and the parents would qualify as their beneficiaries. But in the case of the single employees, parents who are still alive can be their beneficiaries. Or
Yes.
if napaangkan, ang mga anak pwede sa niyang ma-claim, ma-consider as the beneficiaries. But in case the single employee doesn't have a child and the parents are already deceased, so that's the question now, who will qualify as their beneficiaries? So siblings are the closest relative who can qualify as beneficiaries. Aside from, what if the only child siya? So wala siya siblings, paano? So he can choose anyone among his relatives, but limited
Relatives, yes,
only to
miss.
two. Di ba?
Yes, miss.
Sige, continue. Okay na ang iwan nga form. At least familiar na mo sa form and what information is contained therein. Okay, questions from the non-reporting cluster.
Yes, there is. Therese?
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Good
So I am
afternoon.
Mary Therese Diaz from Cluster 5, and my question is, so what if a former employee or self-employed worker with an existing SSS number still do they still need to register as an OFW member prior to going abroad?
No need, or he or she can still continue using his or her SSS number and continuing or reactivating his or her membership, but when paying the contribution, he or she should check the OFW payer type.
Yes, Maria Carmela.
Good afternoon. I am Maria Carmela Dalmar from Cluster 1. My question is, can a member of the SSS apply for a lump sum loan or pension, and how?
Yeah, so to answer your question, Carmela, yes, a member of the SSS can apply for a lump sum loan or pension. To apply for a lump sum loan, a member must have reached at the age of 60 and should have retired for employment or stopped self-employment. So this benefit will fit or fall into the retirement benefit. So the member must also have paid at least 120 monthly contribution to the SSS, and the lump sum loan amount is based on the member's total contribution and is payable in a lump sum. So I've already mentioned this a while ago during the report. So this lump sum loan or pension is can can be fall under the retirement benefit. Yes, Kyla.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Carla May Galindas from Cluster 1. My question is, what are some of the financial issues confronting the SSS and what measures have been offered to solve them?
One of the main financial issues confronting the SSS in the Philippines is the sustainability of its pension fund. The increasing number of retirees and the longer life expectancy of Filipinos have put a strain on the fund's resources, making it challenging for the SSS to provide adequate benefits to all its members. So, to address this issue, the SSS has proposed several measures to improve its financial sustainability. One such measure is the gradual increase in contribution rates, both for employees and employers, to ensure that the fund can sustain its current benefits and provide additional benefits to its members in the future.
Yes, Risha.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes,
So I'm
you're
Rachel,
audible.
Cluster 2. My question is, are foreigners allowed to register in SSS? And if yes, are there any requisites for them to be applicable in registering in SSS?
Actually, foreigners are required, or foreign national workers in the Philippines must make a contribution to SSS and other things. So the membership in this is mandatory unless there are exemption that are made under the Philippines totalization agreement. So the requisites of this is, first is to the foreign the foreign member should accomplish the form overseas worker record and submit it together with a photocopy of any of the following. First, very important, is the birth certificate. Second is the baptismal certificate, the driver's license, the valid passport, of course. It is very important. Then the Professional Regulation Commission or the PRC card, and lastly the Siemens book. Lastly, we have Sophia. Yes, Sophia.
Hello, cluster one. Are you cluster one?
Cluster 4.
Cluster four. Sorry, my bad. Um, Hi, I'm Sophia Payod, and I'm from cluster three. And I'd like to ask, in the case of an LGBT member, how can a cohabitant slash live-in partner qualify as a beneficiary? More specifically, in filing for a death benefit, is that possible?
Actually,
So,
oh, okay. Go ahead,
so
Amir.
based on the interview we had with Sir Earl yesterday, he emphasized that the only designated beneficiaries must be relatives, and it is not allowed if they are only in a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship or live together since they are not married yet. Also, SSS only recognizes marriages here in the Philippines, and as we know, same-sex marriages is not available in the Philippines yet, and due to that, they are not considered married under SSS.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes, MJ.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Joseph M. Hentica, and I am from Cluster 5. My question is, in the course of the life of the business, there may be instances where unforeseen events may occur which could have negative effects of their business, just like the COVID-19 pandemic. How does the SSS help business owners prepare for unforeseen events that may affect their businesses, such as natural calamities or economic downturns?
Um, The SSS offers programs and benefits to help business owners prepare for unforeseen events like natural calamities or economic downturns. This includes a calamity loan that provides financial assistance based on the member's monthly salary credit payable over 24 months, an employment benefit for those who lost their job, flexible payment terms for contributions and loans during difficult situations, and online services to access records and avail benefits even during times when physical transactions are difficult or impossible.
Yes, Joanna.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I'm Joanna Marie Vajang from Cluster 3. So here's my question. Would you advise students like us to voluntarily enroll as SSS member based on your research on the SSS?
Yes, I highly advise that all of us can already apply for SSS membership. As what Sir Sir Earl said yesterday, our age is already eligible for us to apply an SSS. And as said, as what as based on what Miss Campos said, we can either go manually or like go directly to the SSS office, like walk in to register, or we can also apply it online. And in order to apply for the SSS, we need first to have our SSS number, and I will show you a website in which we can apply for our SSS number. So, one important thing that Sir no Miss Campos said yesterday that as early as now we can prepare our SSS but we can only but it is only for like self-employed, so that when it comes to like we're already adult, we have already worked, like dili na to maglisod, or we will not have any difficulties already in order for us to get an SSS membership. That is why I highly encourage you everyone that as early as now get an SSS membership, and you can just tell me to ask help from Miss Campus or Sir Earl in order for them to have like help us in have getting this SSS number and help us in getting our SSS membership. Yes, that's all.
If you are going to get your SSS number for now while you are still a student, then that means you will be contributing for both employee and employer's share. Just like any voluntary member sa SSS. Maka-afford ra mo contribute for both employee and employer's share, or members share will contribute for both employee and employer's share every month.
No.
Dili
Mauna
miss
kay usually manggod ang mo apply will only be those who are about to be employed. Kung self-employed individual, so voluntary inyong membership. But the consequence is you have to pay for both employee and employer's share kung maka-afford mo. Di ba?
then if dili miss kay dili lang
Dili,
ta.
miss, kay mahal kayo ang tuition.
Mauna. Nagkuan ra ba ron no? Nag-tuition fee hearing karon?
Approve na daw miss nga mo increase ang tuition.
Kinsa may nag-approve?
I think
Nisugot
ang
ang nisugot ang SSC officers for the increase.
Ay, wala ka man apil.
Miss,
Wala
pwede
ka
mo
man
apil ang mga teachers.
Unsa? Pwede mo
Sa
appeal.
tuition na tuition increase hearing karon miss niya. Ang katunggihan ni Pag kay ang ang giingon ni Father Sorin kanina miss kay ano miss kanang i-submit ko daw sa chat miss ang katong petition katong sa SSC nga position paper ug ang
Mm. Kang ila, what I've heard is ila ra ba gigamit ra ba ni Attorney Largo ang rason nga nag tuition fee increase kay tungod sa gipangayo daw sa union. Wa man gud mi mangayo ang union, wa man gud mangayo ang union nga kanang saingan ani nangayo nag-increase but based on the previous years kuan kanang unsa na tuition fee, but we are not the ones, it is not the union advocating for the increase in the tuition fee. Employer manggod or ang USC manggod maoy nangayo anang increase. Nya gigamit laangan sa CFIU. O na, dapat unta mo fight mo ana nga dili padayon. O ganinang
Mo
gikonsulta.
jud batira ba kayo mga computer sa computer lab?
Oh, niya what I've heard na ato estudyante nga kanang gusto pa unta mo sulti niya murag gi-stop ni Miss Brinette Brenica. Kasi
Dili
may
na sila mo
facilitator daw sa
opinion.
conference. Ngano man na. Dapat mo fight gid unta mo ana nga dili ikuan ang increase kay so pagoy increase sa salary sa inyong parents paano? Kita, sige, napailaing pangutana? Kita-time na ra ba? No more?
None so far.
Okay.
Miss, if mag tuition fee increase daw, miss, kay increasean ba sa daw ang salary sa teachers?
O mao man gud na ilahang unsa na strong reason nga nganong nangayo sila increase kay 70% man good sa tuition fee increase padung man good na sa salary sa employees, not just the teachers but all employees. Mao man na sa balaod, kung dunay i-implement nga tuition fee increase, dapat 70% of such increase will be given to the employees, increase sa ilang salaries. So not just the teachers, tanan empleyado. Regular holiday man. Ini ka Monday, so why klase, why work? So our next meeting will be on Wednesday for the pag-ibig reporting cluster, isn't it?
Yes,
Yes,
miss.
miss.
Sige, see you everyone. Thank you. Unsa mo nga cluster, Angel? Cluster
Cluster 4, miss.
cluster 1?
Cluster 4.
Cluster 4. Okay. Thank you, Cluster 4, for sharing the valuable information to everyone. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, bye.
Goodbye. Thank you, miss.
Thank you, Miss.
Bye, miss.
Goodbye
Thank
and
you,
thank
miss.
you,
Goodbye.
miss.
Thank you,